Good morning. Hi, this is R.N. Bhaskar from Bhaskar Ki Business Baatein. Actually from BKBB, which is an acronym for Bhaskar Ki Business Baatein. This is a channel that comes to you every week with a policy analysis, with a conversation, with an occasional business story. But right now at 8:15 in the morning, we bring you BKBB, which is news behind the news. We analyze a few headlines that we think are important, and we consider what the ramifications could be. And today, I have my co-anchor, Anurag. Welcome, Anurag. Good to see you. And today, we are going to discuss, the two of us are going to discuss three titles. The first title is about Trump. Who else? He's the one who keeps on grabbing headlines one after another. Basically, he wants to remove all restraints from AI. Is that a wise move? And the second story is how PSBs are struggling hard to improve credit offtake. And the third story is basically how the government of India, the finance ministry, wants to promote speculation, even though this will mean that small investors lose money. We'll discuss that too. Let's take the first story. Yesterday, in a dramatic announcement, Trump's announcements are always dramatic. In a dramatic announcement, Trump said that he was going to remove all restraints on AI. Great idea. It's a new business opportunity. And by removing restraints, he hopes his country can do better, make America great again. But look at the chart. The costs of water of power capacity and of water have kept on climbing because AI is an energy guzzler, is a water guzzler. Water guzzler because the engines have to be cooled. And those are costs that the world has not factored in, both in terms of availability and in terms of costs. So Trump still wants to push this forward. Will it make sense? Look at the costs. The costs are huge. According to one estimate, the costs are so huge that they could be almost 4 times the normal costs. Does that make sense? I don't know. Let's see. And that brings me to the second story. And the second story is on credit offtake and transmission. Anurag, could you come in?
Good morning. The public sector banks, also known as PSBs, has slashed rates more than the private peers. But loan growth remains moderate. So what this really means for your wallet? The Reserve Bank has cut rates by a full percentage point since February, pushing banks to reduce both lending and deposit rates. But here's the twist. The government banks are cutting deeper than private ones. For example, your SBI home loan is now 31 basis points cheaper, while ICICI has only reduced by 20 basis points. On the contrary, your saving accounts is earning historic lows. Both PSBs and private banks now offer just 2.5% on savings, the lowest since deregulation in 2011. If you have high saving deposits in your account, you are losing purchasing power to inflation. But the bigger story is what banks aren't doing. Despite a cheaper money, they are being selective about lending. Personal loans and vehicle financing have hit the brakes hard. If you are planning to purchase a car, banks are suddenly pickier about who gets approved. Yet small businesses are still finding credit as MSMEs continue getting funds, signaling banks' confidence in the sector's resilience. Now, if you are borrowing, government banks offer better rates. But if you are saving, those fixed deposit and PPF accounts suddenly look more attractive than your savings account. And if you are planning a big ticket purchase, you might want to apply soon because this landing a caution might not be temporary. The RBI wants to stimulate growth through cheaper credit, but banks are reading economic uncertainty very differently. They are cutting rates because they must, but lending like they don't quite believe the recovery story yet. What's your take on this, sir?
Anurag, what you raised is a perfect dilemma before the government. It wants credit to be taken off, to take off, but at the same time, the bankers know that every time it's been liberal credit, if the loans become sticky, you have the CBI, you have the ED, you have inquiries, and there are allegations of collusion. The banks do not want to face that. As the banks are very careful about whom they're lending money to and how they allow transmission rates to take place. So the government's intentions are right, but the government's actions on the ground for bankers in the last 5 years has frightened bankers. So transmission won't take place very easily, and credit offtake will be very guarded only to select customers. But thank you, Anurag. Great story. I'm glad you raised it. And that takes me to the third story. And the third story is about the finance ministry. Yesterday, the finance ministry said that REITs, the real estate investment trust, will be treated as shares. Okay, that's a marginal nomenclature that can be changed. Will it make REITs attractive to shareholders, to investors? I'm not sure. Because behind real estate, behind REITs, behind the shares that REITs has, you also have a governance issue. Most real estate companies don't really meet the benchmark as far as governance is concerned. And that is why this is a good move, but I don't know whether it'll work the way the government wants it to work. But then look at another thing the government's done. It has allowed Jane Street to resume operations in India, and after so much of brouhaha, it has allowed it. And this is despite over ₹1 trillion being lost by small investors. Clearly, the government wants to create the froth in the investment market through FIIs. It doesn't matter small investors' rules. What the government wants is pushing up the stock indices so that it can take credit for a buoyant market. But taking credit for a buoyant market without the fundamentals being right and without having a level playing field is wrong. The government is going to hurt small people. And while it said it would not allow this in the past, now it has allowed it. All sins forgotten. Come back home. Anyway, that takes me to the end of the third story. And that takes me to the next part about questions and comments. But before I go there, let me ask you to please click the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already. And after that, please click the like button. Clicking the like button helps us in our algorithms with YouTube. But most important of all, please tell all your friends about us so that our audience grows. It's growing, but we will grow faster. And your help is needed there. And that takes me to the end of the announcement. And let me take the comments and the questions that have started coming in. The first question is, what should the government do about protecting investors? Please remember that when it comes to speculative trading, India accounts for 60% of global trading, even though it has only 4% of market capitalization. You can see the distortion. America has a huge market capitalization, but has only a few single-digit figures as far as speculative trading is concerned. India needs to follow that practice. Point 2. Look at the way these big companies, when they trade through HFT, the losers are always the small guys. They are not pitting themselves against the bigger guys. The big boys club has a cozy relationship. So when I speculate, I make money, and the man who loses is a small investor. And that is unfortunate. which is why the government of India must do the same thing that America did. In America, small investors are not allowed in F&O. Small investors are not allowed in speculative trade. So you protect the small investor and make sure that speculative trade are between biggies and biggies. Small guys are not caught in the midst. Why is the government doing this? As I said, it's obvious it wants a froth in the market to show how great its markets are, even though the price that small investors pay is very, very high. And that takes me to the next question. The next question is, what is the way forward to AI? I can't tell you what the way forward is. Yes, AI is important, but you need to monitor regulations very carefully so that you don't end up in a situation where your power costs and water costs go through the roof. You need to make sure that these operations continue without creating a ripple or a bubble in the market. But then, when did Trump listen to reason? Let's see. And there's a third question that's coming along. And the third question is about how do we look at a market that wants credit but cannot get credit? The answer is very simple. Credit offtake will take place when you create a healthy investment environment. People are not investing because the investment environment is not healthy. If you allow a healthy investment climate, people will start projects and will borrow money. But when people are not starting projects and they prefer investing overseas more than investing in India, you have a problem. Please address the fundamentals first, and the fundamentals are improve governance, improve the domestic market, improve the market which is there for small people. And that, in a way, brings me to the end of today's session. Have a great day ahead. May the day be good for you. Take care. Good luck.